Well, from an entertainment perspective, thank goodness for that overtime. But it's another standout goaltending performance wasted as the Calgary Flames probably come out with more than they deserve in a 2-1 overtime loss to the Carolina Hurricanes on Sunday afternoon. The scoring drought does end. Hallelujah. 171 minutes and 34 seconds without a goal for the Calgary Flames. They've been held off the score sheet for parts of 9 periods, but thankfully we can put that conversation kind of to rest now. I'm Cami. He's Mike. Welcome to a special afternoon-ish afterburner brought to you by Bet365 and our super chat charity partner, Youth Centers of Calgary. Now, before we tear this game apart in the general season, just again, if you've been with us before, you know what Youth Centers of Calgary is all about. If you want to make sure your questions or comments get on the show, you can hit us with the super chat and support YCC, a place where kids are welcome and accepted as they are and get to have a break from the chronic stress that is the reality of a lot of their lives right now, and a chance to flourish through connection and fun and all that great stuff. But that's my beef with the game. Mike, what are your first thoughts?
My first thought is I think this is the first time we've ever done a show together, not in studio.
I wonder why.
I'm hosting an Oscars party tonight. We're going to watch it on tape delay. It's already started. I would rather watch the Oscars than that game. Wow, that was rough. The overtime was okay. Got a little bit hairy there in the last 5 minutes when Coleman took the double minor penalty. But wow, I mean, it was a game where the Flames, again, had maybe one or two standouts. The other team, I can see why there is so much smoke around them leading up to the trade deadline, because Carolina, as clearly as they were the better team, they still have some big issues they need to work out. But from a Flames standpoint, I really enjoyed watching Dustin Wolf, and that's about it.
Yeah, it got to a point at the start of it where it wasn't concern about, are the Flames ever going to score a goal again? It's like, are the Flames ever going to get a shot on net again? They didn't get one until there was about just over 2 minutes left in the first period. And even then, it was like, if Kochetkov wasn't there, would that have hit the net?
No.
It was pretty gracious, honestly.
I think so. Well, it's a funny one because the Flames make lineup changes. We're going to talk about them later, but you take out one struggling scorer in Yegor Sharangovich, and even so, the result is a team that is just chock full of struggling scorers and just a real litany of missed opportunities in that first period, and also just a really poor execution. And ultimately, there were two guys on the Flames who I really liked tonight. I liked Matt Coronado, as I usually have this season. Funny that we talk about Sharangovich, where last year Yegor was the guy who had an amazing release and had no trouble getting it off. And I thought Coronado was having trouble with his release last year. And this year it's the complete opposite, where Coronado has been so dangerous, and tonight he doesn't get rewarded, but he has been. But the rest of the Flames just looked to me quite listless, and Wolf is the singular reason why they got a point.
And it's tough. Like, as you know, that is the second half of a back-to-back coming off of one of the poorer performances of the season for the Flames. But there were a couple of bright spots in there that I guess we should get to. You mentioned one of them, Dustin Wolf. That was his first start on the second half of a back-to-back this season. It's almost become a running joke for Flames fans that like these games are reserved for Dan Vladar. And he was perfectly serviceable, above average versus Florida yesterday. Wolf, best player on the ice for Calgary today, but now 1-6-1 on the second half of the back-to-back. And that one win came against Edmonton in like the first week of the season.
It's not been pretty. And it's funny, the conspiracy theorist in me almost wonders if the Flames had some sort of inkling that the Panthers were going to make that move that they did after the game yesterday, where they sent Spencer Knight off to Chicago. And now the Panthers don't have another goaltender on their roster really at all. I mean, they called up Chris Drieger, an old WHL farmhand star with the Hitmen, but his numbers in the AHL this year, they haven't warranted a call-up. So I almost wonder if Vladar is a guy who's on Florida's radar, especially after that performance yesterday. And then, of course, Wolf isn't going anywhere. I mean, he doesn't matter how the team in front of him plays. He's just been, with a few exceptions, so consistent. And tonight, he gave the Flames life in a game where they had no business being anywhere close. And it's just another stamp on his passport this year on his route to becoming a NHL starting full-time star goaltender. He's basically already there, and I think at some point in the next 5 days, the departure of Dan Vladar, if it does happen, will be sort of the final piece of Wolf's ascension, the final step that he has to take. So it's been remarkable the last 6 months watching this guy blossom into the player he is today, because from the first game that I ever watched of him in person when he made his AHL debut, even then when we were all excited what he was doing in Everett, and of course he got lit up in his first game, but then his next two were really strong. But even then, I never would have expected this level of dominance so soon in the NHL.
And listen, Chris Drieger is not the only Hitmen goaltender we're going to be talking about today. Spoiler alert.
That's right.
Later, but Dustin Wolf, there's just also a level of swagger that he has in his game that we didn't necessarily see when things were kind of new and tenuous for him at the NHL level. But there were some insane saves he made tonight. He ends up with 31 saves on the evening, some of the biggest ones coming in overtime. That's a .939 save percentage for him. And especially considering Carolina finished up with 17 high danger chances, and he was more than up to the task. You see that he's gotten really comfortable handling the puck, especially even when it leads to some nervy moments. You can see that it doesn't bother him at all. He doesn't seem to get in his head or need to have that moment where you see him visibly trying to shake it off, which is really good. But we'll take a look at a recap of the game. My notes for first period. My number one highlight from first period, best part was when the DJ played Copperhead Road.
I was at Costco refilling a propane tank, and I got back to the house to watch probably the last 15 minutes of the first period, maybe 10, 15 minutes. I missed only a little bit at the start. I didn't miss a thing. It was just, you have to wait that long. That is the longest a team has waited all season to get their first shot of the game. Not the Flames, any team. All 32 in the league it took the Flames, over 17 minutes to get their first shot of this game. I mean, it is a year where if you look at the offensive players on this team, I mean, Kadri and Huberdeau sort of tied, I think, for the team lead, I think, with 44 points now. But even the guys who we're looking at as standouts, guys like Connor Zary, still stuck at 22 points on the year. I mean, Coronado is around the 30 mark. I mean, it is a year where the Flames are just, somebody in the chat suggested the word insipid to describe their offense. And I kind of like that as a descriptor, because, you really have to grade on a strong bell curve everywhere on this roster, especially offensively. And with the Flames tonight in the first period, it was boring. It was flat out boring.
It was not good, and it looked like they were going to be going down in numbers when Farabee went to the dressing room after taking a shot from Dmitry Orlov off of his fingers, it looked like. So he heads to the room with ice on his hand. Thankfully, he was able to come back, but it did look like his mobility was a little limited, and that was pretty much all she wrote for the first. And then in the second, Calgary had more offense, sans a goal in the first 5 minutes than they had in their last 3 games, essentially. And then you had Dustin Wolf really turning it up. He robbed Aho, who was coming in real close with a one-timer. Rantanen, for how slow his start has been with the Hurricanes, does dish very well from behind the net. They do a good job of controlling the play that way. But kind of similar to the last couple games, no matter how poorly or how good Calgary was playing, we just saw them in the last 2 outings before tonight allow a goal just late in the second period that really seemed to change the tone of the game going into the third. You look at Tampa Bay, they were very much in that game, and then just unfortunately dug themselves into a hole with that late goal allowed. And then they were not great against Florida, but it would have been a 1-0 game going into the third. You were in that. So just a bit of an unfortunate trend there. 34 seconds left in the second. Nazem Kadri is taken down in the offensive zone. That creates a give and go for the Carolina Hurricanes the other way. Slavin and Blake, with Slavin capping it off. Not much Wolf could do in that situation, but let's take a look at how it went down here.
Andersson was there just in time
for the hits. So there's a certain degree of, to a certain extent, he put himself in that position. I don't blame the Carolina player for finishing his check there. And then it's just a really high skill play by Jackson Blake, who is a guy who had a career with the Leafs and the Panthers, etc., Islanders. Yeah, no, that's a
Carolina
high.
player not getting their flowers. This guy needs to have his Jacob Slavin moment.
Yeah, it was exactly. It was a really high skill play, and yeah, but Kadri was hot, and he ended up getting a little extra out of it. And I guess you can sort of point at that and say why. Well, he woke up a little bit in the third period, and that's you poke the bear. But from a Carolina standpoint, the one thing that was kind of interesting with that play is that's one of the only plays in the game where they got a clean shot off on an on-man rush or a quick shot off. They made Wolf move a lot. They made that side-to-side play a lot. Carolina did, but I found that unlike what happened in Tampa and unlike what happened in Florida, Carolina struggled a little bit more to get the quick shots off. They sort of double clutched a little bit. I don't know if it's a confidence thing with their offense that hasn't been generating as much, but I think that's what allowed Wolf a little bit more time throughout the game. But that was a rare play where it was just bang bang and there was nothing you could do.
I think it's funny you say that because I felt like the more the game went on, and particularly on the Carolina power play, I thought the Flames did a really good job of jamming things up and not allowing a lot of those east-west passes for Carolina to create those kinds of chances.
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged thing. I thought especially on the 4-minute power play for Carolina at the very end of the game, I thought the Flames did an excellent job of getting sticks in lanes. I thought Backlund and Hanley and the like did a very good job of that. I thought earlier in the game, it was just a matter of Carolina just couldn't get it cleanly. And Wolf, his shoulder, I mean, he's not the biggest guy, but his shoulder for sure getting a lot of pucks on him, and he was doing a great job of making it a close game, a much closer game than it had any right to be.
And we mentioned that Kadri kind of turned away from the hit. We do have a closer look at what transpired there. And of course, as you mentioned, there was a little
for a while. Carolina, for the heat they've been getting lately about their offense, I mean, they still have guys who are capable of doing that.
Yeah, and then just obviously unfortunate for Kadri that it ends up saddling Calgary with another penalty kill, but that came up even bigger for them in the third. That's where we did see Kadri kind of atoned for the sins there by breaking that shutout streak with a pretty just precision shot down low. Yeah, it was Frost kind of started it off. He did a good job to maintain possession after Coronado just teed up for a big shot. His stick, it seemed like it exploded. Like we had 3 sticks blow up. A
couple times, yeah.
Budget through the roof. It's like almost $1,000 in sticks right there, I bet. But yeah, Frost Tank maintains possession after the Coronado shot, and then Huberdeau and Kadri just are able to swap positions, and Huberdeau dishes for a Kadri one-timer, and that will send us to overtime.
Yeah, Chekhov wasn't really square to it, and it kind of just sneaks through him. He got a piece of it, but not all of it. And Huberdeau and Kadri combined, they have been, I think, the best of the bunch, I would say, to an extent over this dry spell. And this isn't maybe the greatest angle for Kadri, but the Flames get on the board. This is the goal that gets them that point. Of course, you can thank Wolf a lot for that, but this one from
separate places. Someone afraid of Cami?
No, I'm not afraid of Cami. If you weren't here off the hop, I'm having some people over tonight. We're going to watch the Oscars. I already know I have one of the awards spoiled for me. That's it. Just they always do supporting actor early, but there's some movies I want to see win. There's some movies I want to see lose. And I always love watching the Oscars. So no, I'm not afraid of Cami.
I did call him a coward in the Afterburner group chat. Don't worry, everybody.
She did. Yeah, I can confirm.
And now we got our buddy Pike in the chat. Pretty convenient scheduling. It is sus. And it's a shame because Pike was even going to come in and referee.
I know. Pike just loves getting those jabs in too. It's 2-on-1. I couldn't have it.
Yeah. Tough stuff. But anyway, that takes us back to the recap there. Now, this is where I think this was, Wolf aside, the big star of Calgary's game. That penalty kill was great. Yeah,
I didn't think he had a whole lot to do on the PK to a certain extent, or at least as much as he could have. Like, it wasn't like it was all him. I thought the defense.
No, I think the Flames defenders did a great job on those penalties.
Exactly.
they held Carolina 0 for 6, but we have to remember the most important one was where Blake Coleman took a double minor for a high stick on Jordan Martinook. That actually led to a fight that we're going to get to in a second, but drew blood, and Calgary did not allow a single shot on net for a 4-minute penalty kill. Yeah,
that's what I was alluding to. Like, I was really impressed with Joel Hanley. I thought, and he has been very good, and he's a player who, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Flames get some interest in, because he's, been so responsible in a role that I don't know if anybody expected him to play at the start of the year, especially with, Rasmus struggling. I thought he continued to be a little on the wrong side of the puck a little bit too much tonight, especially in overtime. We'll get to that. But yeah, the Flames did a great job. There was a goal that should have been scored that didn't, where Kevin Ball dives headfirst in front of it, and it ends up hitting right in the back of the helmet. And I hope he's all right, because we've seen how hodgepodge the Flames defense looks without him. And of course, he is just coming back
for a month with a similar
exactly
injury. Yeah,
just coming back from a concussion, and you hate seeing those back to back. So hope he's okay. He didn't return, so. It was very much a committee effort to get this one into overtime. Part of it, I think, was Carolina's execution, maybe not being up to snuff, but the Flames, for their own part, did a very good job.
Yeah. Unfortunate, obviously, best wishes to Kevin Ball. And also, I mean, basically in the same breath, that's where we saw Hanley tee off against Andrei Svechnikov, noted pugilist, I guess, but this was actually pretty wild to watch. Just trading stops. That was where Kochetkov made his, bar none, best save of the night on that Flames 2-on-1. And then, of course, the Canes go back the other way. Wolf makes a blocker save. Wolf also did make a stop where the Canes poked it through, and the refs immediately called no goal. And they had to get on the mic and clarify that Wolf had it covered, and then they poked it through. And boy, howdy, the fans down there did not like that. But I think it was the right call.
It was the right call, 100%.
And then, of course, Carolina finishes it off with a beauty. We'll take a look at that here. Who else? Aho. Slavin getting his flowers with the helper there. And your boy Blake.
He was good. Blake was good all night. Yeah, this is... very similar, actually, to the Kadri goal, from a little further out, but that's just perfectly placed. Not a whole lot Dustin can do. But yeah, showing a lot of faith in a rookie, having him out there in 3-on-3. But yeah, Slavin, he just kind of does everything for the Hurricanes. He's a player who, is criminally underpaid, has been for his whole career.
Are you his agent?
Well, I might have done a better job. I think he's making like 6 or something, or 7. Like, it's making way too little. And he has really not shown a lot of signs of slowing down. And kind of a Giordano type guy in the way that maybe a little bit more defensive minded, but in the way that his career has continued to elevate. He's remarkable, and out there on overtime, setting up Aho. There's not a whole lot the Flames could have done to stop that.
And it was just unfortunate where I don't think Calgary had the gas in the tank to do much about that. I think they were able to get one player off when they were hemmed in there in the end, but I think Andersson was on for more than 2 minutes at that point, and there's just so much the body can do at that point. Like, they needed to do something to get a change earlier to prevent that. Yeah,
Rasmus had a really rough overtime, unfortunately. It was not really what the Flames want to see from a guy who's not fleet of foot to begin with. And for a guy who has really struggled over the last few months, it just is another I think probably another piece for the trade him crowd to use, because it was another game that I think was below his standard. And I think we've seen a standard that Andersson is set, and I think too often this year he has been below it. And with the Flames being in the position they're in, and seeing what Seth Jones was traded for, and seeing how many teams are desperate for a player like that, I just don't know if you can justify keeping this player. And of course, the overtime is not going to be what determines what the Flames end up doing. And I think there's a very good chance that the Flames in his camp have already sort of figured out where they are, and sort of figured out where they want to be on July 1st, and kind of, I wouldn't be surprised if they've already sort of figured out what they want and have maybe even sort of come close to agreeing on that. But
if I was to bet on Bet365, I say he sticks around.
I think it gets done on July 1st. I think if it is not already sort of done, I think it will be. And I just don't know if it's the right play. I just think you're taking a real risk, and we'll see. But with the strength the Flames have on right defense, and we're going to talk about a guy who made some history in the OHL today a little later on. I just don't know. It's a tough choice, but for me, I'd move him.
Well, that is how it shook out today. 2-1 in OT. The Flames do get that sweet loser point. They at least temporarily jump the Canucks for the second wild card spot. They both have 65 points. Calgary has the tiebreaker with one more win, but it's going to be tough going down the stretch there. We'll take the chance to shout out our buddy Derek Newman with the Newman Group. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on. Born and raised Calgarian. If you want to talk sports or real estate, you can give him a shout. He does it all from the complimentary in-house staging consultation, and whether it's your first home purchase or you've been around the game for a while, he'll take the time to understand your goals. And like, we know how important video is for NHLers. He'll come through and do the pre-listing consultation and help you every step of the way with the comprehensive marketing plan, a detailed analysis of the market, other comparable homes, and even find things that are off the market and go the extra mile to hunt them down for you. Truly a GM of the real estate market. But you can give Derek a shout at 403-619-6661, and he'll make it easy for you. So let Derek with the Derek Newman Group put his network to work for you. You talked about it a little bit off the hot mic, but a couple of lineup changes today. We talked about Sharangovich coming out, but we also saw Pahal and Solovyov sit to have Bean and Miramanov come back in, as well as Adam Klapka. I'm just going to say, I know the stat line was not kind to Klapka at the end of the night. He ends up with 747 ice time, -1. But when the Flames were not able to get anything on net, he was creating. He was able to kind of get through the Canes defense and at least get close to the net, even if the shots didn't fall in the end. So we could see that the effort was at least there in the beginning. And I don't know that we could have said that for Sharangovich over the last game or two.
Yeah, Yegor's really fighting it. He's been so up and down, especially at the start of the year. Like, there were games where Yegor was getting 6 or 7 shots on net, and you were sort of wondering, okay, well, this guy's sort of finding it a little bit, and recently he's just getting none. So I totally understand, and quite frankly, it probably should have been done a couple of weeks ago to scratch him. But by the same token, it is an extremely difficult environment for anybody to get offense on the Flames right now. I mean, a guy who has admittedly been still finding his way in Calgary, but has really struggled is Joel Farabee. He's got 1 point in 10 games with the Flames. That's really worrisome. And even a guy like Morgan Frost, he's got 3. It's Huberdeau and Kadri are sort of coming, point by point. But then after that, Zary hasn't had a point since he came back. Backlund and Coleman still kind of, just floating around. Nobody's getting points. So it's to a certain extent, I just kind of think this year is a complete, is just a complete write-off for a lot of the guys on this team. And, with Yegor specifically, I am still curious to see how he responds to a summer after he started this year injured, because the truth is, in his first 3 out of 4 seasons, he was among the league leaders in goals per 60. He was one of the most efficient scorers in the league. The problem is, when he's not scoring, he's just not present. He's not a strong board player. In fact, that's probably his biggest weakness. He's not a particularly strong defensive player. So I think the jury's out on what will happen after this summer for him, because I think he's a very gifted player, and I think he makes the Flames a lot better when he's playing well. And I think the same can be said for a lot of guys in this team. But just right now, he definitely had to sit as sort of emblematic of the struggles overall of a lot of guys in this team. And on defense, I can kind of understand why they want to swap in a new pairing. A second game of back-to-back after a game where Solovyov really struggled. Pahal, is kind of what he is. And so I didn't think the third pairing was particularly offensive by any means tonight. But, that's sort of all I got to say about that.
They were there. They tried.
Yeah, they tried. But yeah, I going back to Yegor, my thought is, just with a summer for him and with a summer for Farabee and with a summer for Frost and for Zary, I mean, there are so many guys in this team who are on pace for 30 points. And ultimately, I think it comes down to these guys are good players. I think on other teams, they'd be a lot more productive than they are here. And with Yegor specifically, the big thing that has disappeared completely is his release. I mean, last year, he was by far the Flames' most dangerous shooter. But somebody in the chat, I mean, there's also a little bit of recency bias. I would give up a first to get rid of him. That seems like a bit of an overreaction. So, yeah, no, I don't think it's going to sewer the team's chances going forward. But the contract, he needs to be a lot better to live up to the contract, which only kicks in next season.
Two other quick things to get to. An update from the Flames. Ryan Huska says that Kevin Ball is fine. That's fantastic. So good to hear. And also shout out to Name. Thanks for supporting Youth Centers of Calgary. Got a question for you, Michael. What is Rasmuth worth now? He has lost a lot over the last year, in my opinion. Your guys' wishes before the deadline. And thanks again for the shows. Thank you for helping us out, buddy. I don't think I could see him being a player who could be, I guess, overpaid, but I think there would be enough intangibles in his game that would maybe sway Calgary to keeping him around.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I don't think he's lost any value, to be honest with you. I think teams will look at Rasmus, and the same ones that would have been interested in him a year ago are probably the same ones that will be interested in him today. It's the same question as people who are saying that Markstrom lost all his value after the Flames didn't trade him at the deadline, and then they traded him in the summer. It's like, really? I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, and I don't think it really changed his value much at all in the end. So I think with Rasmus, it just really comes down to I think it really comes down to Conroy, because I ultimately think if the Flames decide they want to extend him, I think they will have no problem coming to terms on an agreement with Rasmus. And I think Rasmus will want to extend. And I think that's sort of what gave the players pause last year who left, was that I don't think Elias Lindholm had any interest. I don't think Noah Hannum had really had much interest at all. And with Rasmus, it's different. The equation is different, because I think he does very much want to stay. And so it ultimately comes down to Conroy determining what he thinks is best for the team. I think it's different than, some of the other players that he has re-signed, wherein Rasmus is not an RFA. He's older. He's going to be 30 when his new contract kicks in. For me, I just think signing a guy like Rasmus, whose foot speed is already not what it was, and it was never great to begin with, I think it'd be a mistake. But I think it all lies in where the GM sees the team.
Yeah, I mean, the trade deadline is coming up really quick. We should mention, of course, that Frank Seravalli has his big show going, the Daily Faceoff Trade Deadline Special. That's March 7th, next Friday, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mountain for us in Calgary. They're going to be live breaking it all down as it happens with probably breaking a couple of trades too, with instant reaction, expert analysis, and all the behind the scenes drama. But I remember I kind of scoffed when you said last time we did the show together that going 500 on this road trip would be more than satisfactory for the Flames. And now that's kind of the best they can do. To me, this road trip has answered questions. I don't think you should buy now. I'm not saying playoffs won't happen, because somehow, some way they do find themselves in a playoff spot for the time being. I just don't think this is a team that could go a 7-game series against anyone that they've seen on this trip. So I think you just have to if you can sell a couple pieces here or there, great. There's no reason why Calgary might not eke into that last playoff spot and get that revenue from a first round playoff series. But I don't think this is the team that you need to buy in, because even when they were playing well tonight, I was just thinking this looks like a great supporting cast.
Well, you don't want them to trade for Luke Cunnin. I don't think it makes any sense. I think they should be looking to move on from Hanley. I think they should be looking to move on from Vladar. I think this is a team that, at a certain point, you can't say, oh, they've underperformed. They, trade everybody because this team is not, trade everybody who's underperforming this season, because really this is kind of what we expected to a certain extent. We expected this team to not be competitive, and instead they have been competitive. But I think they have been competitive at the detriment of some of their individual players. I think they are playing a style that is sort of tailor-made to try and grind their way into a playoff spot. And I think what we're seeing is guys' individual production is suffering for it. It's just the nature of the beast. If you really want to be that competitive, you can't play wide open hockey. And I think them playing wide open hockey last year is the reason why some guys had really good offensive years. And this year it's been a little bit difficult. They've been, really trying to win these 1-goal games, and they've done a good job of it to a certain point. But the end result is, a lot of the guys on the team end up looking or profiling a lot more like support cast members, because on the best teams in the league that play that style, their stars are able to break through it. And on this team, they kind of have to have every line playing that way. So it's just the way it kind of goes. I don't expect them to move Andersson. His name hasn't been out there at all. I don't it would have to be something completely out of left field. And what we're seeing right now is that the Flames getting, 1 point every 3 games or so. They are 2 points away from a top 10 pick, with the Rangers almost certainly winning today against Nashville. Almost certainly winning. They're already up 3-0. So it's Utah in 23rd after that game, and they are 2 points back of the Flames. I don't think the Flames are going to have any choice in the matter. I think they're going to keep losing to a certain degree here against teams that are ahead of them, against teams that are right there with them, because I just think the offense is completely dried up, and it's just the way that they've been played.
That takes us to, I think we should just make this an official segment. Where are the goals? Where are the goals?
Where are they?
It was like the image that was like kind of playing in my head during the first period was, do you remember the cinematic classic Holes?
Oh no, the Louis Sacker.
They're digging holes in the desert, which used to be like a lush lake, and it just dried up. That is how the goals dried up.
The holes dried up. Yeah, the goals dried up. Yeah.
I'm tired of playing hockey, Grandpa. Well, that's too damn bad. That movie should have won an Oscar. Did it win an Oscar?
No, it didn't. I was always more of a Wayside fan. I like that. I like that author though. That's Louis Sacker. He's good. No, the goals are completely gone. They, you look at it is an epidemic. It is everybody on this team is struggling to score. Everybody is struggling to a certain extent. My question for you, Cami, is how many players on this team currently are living up to expectations?
I think Huberdeau.
Sure. Okay.
But again, this is like the bell curve of what
the bar is in.
Because when we talk about the team doing well to the detriment of some players, it's like Huberdeau is having his best season as a Flame.
The bar is in hell.
Yeah, it truly is. The bar is at the bottom of the hole that Zero dug.
I would posit myself that Matt Coronado and Dustin Wolf are living up to expectations. Yes. Nazem Kadri is, right sort of there. Huberdeau, sure, if you really want to put it that way. Zary, at this point, I would say is a little bit below what I expected him to be coming into this season, and I fully acknowledge that he has had an injury.
I think before the injury, he was, for sure. But I think him and maybe not Zary post-injury, and I do think he deserves a little bit of grace there, but Coronado is probably one of the only players where I feel any jump like something might happen here when he comes over the boards. But the Flames are now averaging 1 goal per game on this road trip, obviously with the 2 shutouts. So you got Pospisil, Coronado, Huberdeau, and Kadri. Calgary has scored 3 or fewer goals in a game 49 times in 60 games this season.
Yeah. Like I look at it, Backlund, way underperforming in my opinion. Sharangovich, huge underperformer. Farabee has disappointed me a lot. And even you look at his stats in Philly, and this is kind of what we're looking at this season on the whole. Frost, okay, but again, like you're looking, and I go back to Zary. I agree. He's had more flashes than a lot of guys, but at the same time, even before the injury, he was on pace for 45 points, something like that. And it's like, okay, like, what are we doing, right? Like, who is the difference maker going forward on this team? And I just don't see the guys who they need to have to take that step. And I think, there is a certain amount of, if you really think this is a team that's going to win a playoff series or 2 playoff series that can, just get in, anything can happen. It's just really, I just don't agree. I think the guys who they have in their system who give them the best chance to win games in the future are not on the team yet. And we'll talk about one of them here very shortly. But yeah, it's just, it kind of makes me wonder what exactly is going to happen between now and Friday, because it's just, I don't like the makeup of this team right now at all.
Yeah, it's not great, but
no.
I mean, we could always drown our sorrows with a nice crispy Afterburner pale ale, which I'm sure you are serving at your super fancy Oscars party. You also need to tell me the names of some movies to watch, because I don't really watch movies.
Go watch The Brutalist.
Is it
sad?
The
Brutalist is.
That sounds sad.
No, it's actually, well, it is a little sad, but it's way better than I thought it would be. Has a really great performance, couple great performances by Adrian Brody and Guy Pearce. And Guy Pearce is always welcome in my movie watching household. So go watch The Brutalist. I hope it wins Best Picture.
Okay. I don't think I've ever liked a movie that won Best. I don't know if I've watched a movie that's won Best Picture. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is my favorite movie of all time, so I don't think the Oscars is for me. But
did you see Oppenheimer? Oppenheimer was great.
I went to see Barbie.
One of those people.
I loved it.
It was good. I will admit it was good.
The gynecologist joke at the very end sent me to the moon. It was
pretty funny. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it was great. But anyway, while you're at your fancy party, you can enjoy that nice Afterburner pale ale, a throwback to the traditional pale ales we all fell in love with. Bright on the nose and the taste buds, using North American hops balanced out with the malt sweetness, a perfect amount of bitterness. Pickup available with Origin, and you can ask for Origin malting and brewing products at your local liquor stores, favorite pubs and restaurants. And if they don't have it, request that they bring it in. Come on, we're supporting Canadian right now, y'all. We're going to do that. But
that's right.
We talked about the road ahead, salvage mode at this point, basically. I guess we can hope for a little bit of a turning point maybe in Philly. That's coming up on Tuesday. So it's going to be the first meeting against Peltier and Kuzmenko. The Flyers did beat Winnipeg in a shootout recently with some Michkov magic, but they did meet earlier this season. Huberdeau had 2 goals and 2 assists in a 6-3 win over Philly on October 12th. That is also the game where Farabee scored his first goal of the season. So if you want to see him pick it up, maybe you hope for some extra juice from the revenge match. That takes them on to Dallas. They're in action right now against St. Louis.
Yeah, the
it's like
Stars
they're helping the Flames out on that front. So the Stars are up 6-3 right now. Yeah, I could do Calgary a big favor in the playoff race with a win there. Dallas 7-2-1 in their last 10 entering today. Second most points, third best win percentage across the NHL right now. So Dallas is also in the middle of a homestand. They'll be coming off of a match against New Jersey on Tuesday. That wraps up the roadie for Calgary. So then after that, back to the Saddle Dome. It's been a minute, but home against the Canadiens. You mentioned that they're either playing teams that are at the top of the race or right there with Calgary. The Habs are definitely in that second category. They've won 4 in a row now to get back into the Eastern wildcard race. That's another team saying, so what are we? Buyers, sellers, who knows? They're 3 points out of a playoff spot right now. And it's a 3-game break home to the Canucks on Wednesday. Vancouver is flailing again.
Terrible.
For the 3rd time this season, it's like, oh my gosh, is this the moment where they completely turn into a dumpster fire?
I think Elias Pettersson and Yegor Sharangovich need to see the same sports psychologist this summer, because they are both just having they're 2 guys who just can't shoot. They can't shoot the puck. I don't know what's going on with those 2.
Well, one of them has been told in public after signing a fancy new contract, please shoot the puck, and then
shoot the puck. Yeah. So, if there are 2 ways to look at the standings right now, you can look at it from a playoff standpoint. You can look at it from a top 10 pick standpoint. Mm-hmm. And either way, it's so close. You can look at it and say, okay, the Rangers currently up 3-0 on Nashville. They're going to win that game. Both Millers have scored for the Rangers in that game. And the Flames, I mean, you just go look at the next game against Philly. That's a huge game in multiple ways, because, of course, with the Flames, they're going up against 2 of their old guys. and the Flyers, are maybe the easier team on this road trip. And also, if the Flyers win that game, well, they're currently in 24th in the league. They've got 62 points. The Flames have got 65 points. And if the Flames win that game, suddenly they're 5 points up on Philly. If the Flyers win that game, they're 1 point back of the Flames. So if you're looking at wanting the Flames to keep their first-round pick, it's so close. So I'm not pointing in one direction or the other, saying you should hope for this or this. It's just it is unbelievably close at the bottom of the standings. And if the Flames do end up dropping that game, dropping some upcoming games, well, the teams below them right now are currently actually doing quite well. St. Louis is going to lose today, it looks like, but they've been red hot of late. And a team like Utah's been doing a little bit better. Anaheim has been super hot. It's so close. So we'll see. And of course, the other end of that is New Jersey is kind of stumbling a little bit too, and the Flames have their own first-round pick. So
They're getting Markstrom back, though.
They are. So I'm not too concerned about how that one's going to end up. But yeah, so lots in the air.
Yeah, that's our look at the road ahead. I always let you take this one. What do you have going on over at Platinum?
Up at Platinum Mitsubishi coming up. So the 2025 Outlander, the 2025 Gas Outlander has just arrived. Of course, it's our flagship 7-seat SUV up at Platinum. Cool stuff in this year's edition. Brown leather seats in the GT Premium. Brown leather.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really nice with ventilated and heated front seats. New 12-inch touchscreen display. It's beautiful. And come on down to the Calgary Auto Show. So it's right behind me. It's at the BMO Center. The weekend after this upcoming one. It's the weekend of March 14th. So I think it's the 11th to the 14th. Platinum is offering people who come by an $1,000 coupon towards the purchase of a new Outlander. So come check it out. It's going to be awesome over at the BMO Center. And of course, up at 2720 Barlow Trail Northeast.
Beautiful. Beautiful view, by the way, Michael.
Thank you. Yeah, I've just set up the sort of where I'm going to be doing, whenever I'm doing these shows from home. And we've got the BMO Center back there, got Cowboys sort of over there, a couple of skies. It's a view I'm very proud of.
Yeah, that's nice. And then I'll finish up here and go back to hang out with the Coyotes. Just as nature intended.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. A couple other things we want to shout out real quick. We have a playoff Battle of Alberta in Canada West men's hockey. It's game 3-game series, spot in the Canada West final on the line. Alberta and Mount Royal tied 2-2 going into the third period tonight. Yeah, that's going to be crazy. That's going to be pretty crazy.
Oh, that's tight. I've done my fair share of Canada West playoff games, and they can get real chippy on both the men's and the women's sides. Like it is unbelievable hockey. Go check it out. That's awesome.
Most underrated level of hockey in Canada. I say it
100%.
Every time. Actually, got to be down on the ice when U of C came back to beat Alberta a couple years ago. That was nuts. A lot of really talented players, a lot of whom have gone on to pro hockey after wrapping up there. But we're also going to turn our attention to a record-breaking performance in Ontario.
Yeah, Zane Parekh. So I don't know if we have the clip, but it's really not a goal worth showing because it was kind of maybe his worst goal of the season, which is kind of funny because it was his 30th. He scored the 8th goal in an 8-3 win today against the Battalion. He kind of banked it in from behind the goal line. It was, again, a real ugly goal, but he also had 3 assists, and he became the second defenseman ever at the top level of Ontario hockey, junior hockey, and the first in the OHL to score 30 goals in multiple seasons. So Bobby Orr did it back in the 60s when it was still the OHA, which shows you how long ago it's been. He was, of course, with the Oshawa Generals. Parekh with the Saginaw Spirit. 33 goals last year, 30 goals this year. He's up to 96 points again. In his draft year, he had 96 points in 66 games. This year, he's got 96 points in 55 games, including 50 points in his last 20 games. He's been an absolute tear, sort of showing the hockey world why he should be on Team Canada at the next World Juniors, and I'm sure he probably will be. It is really staggering stuff to watch. Back-to-back 4-point games. He is on another level entirely in the OHL right now. And I want to shout out Parekh too, because Parekh in the NCAA playing for Bemidji State was just named the CCHA's Defenseman of the Week. And he, I believe, was at 18 points in 29 games as a freshman this year at Bemidji. And he, of course, was at the Flames development camp this past summer. A guy who also I could see the Flames bringing in because, of course, they have that interest in the past. We'll see if he goes back to Bemidji, but he's a little bit older. He's 21, but another guy who could be on their radar, another right shot defenseman.
Yeah, it's just crazy how difficult that is to do. Like Carter Yakimchuk set a Hitmen franchise record last season, and he hit 30. That was nuts that he was able to do that. I think he's got 16 right now. Of course, he has played fewer games this season, but just so hard to do. I think our top goal scorer in the WHL right now for defensemen would be Prince Albert Raiders captain Justice Christensen. I think he's at 2021 now, probably 21.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, so much has been made of what Michael Misa has done in Saginaw this year, and he's been so hot. But the fact that Parekh has been able to keep pace with him in points is remarkable. And you know, he's gonna easily eclipse 100 points. He would be the first OHL defenseman this century to score more than 100 points. You'd have to go back to like the early 90s to find, you know, certain players. I think Paul Coffey did it back in the 70s. The last one to do it this century was Ryan Ellis, who got exactly 100 went back when he was a Nashville Predators prospect, and he was 21 when he did that. Parekh, of course, just turned 19, and he will easily eclipse 100 points, which when you consider early in the season, he was on pace for 75. You know, like he was sort of seen as having a down year, you know, way down from where he was last year. 50 points in 20 games is something out of a video game. That is remarkable stuff, having a crazy year.
And for those of you in Calgary who want to get another closer look at a Flames prospect coming up the pipeline, Axel Herde again, the Hitman again today, a win over the Kelowna Rockets. But this is nuts. Chestermere's Daniel Hauser, 4 straight shutouts.
Yeah, that's reminds me of Brian Boucher with the Coyotes back like 20 years ago. That is really this is a guy who's going to Wisconsin. He will be heading there as a top recruit for them. And another guy. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just said like this is this season will close out his eligibility for him.
That's
over
right.
Major. Yeah, local guy too, which is really cool. But this is his 118th career win, so there is a chance that I think he is 4 wins away from becoming the winningest goalie in WHL history.
Yeah, so he was the goaltender on that amazing Wenatchee Wild team and Winnipeg Ice team from a couple of years ago. When, you know, in his draft year, I think he was 34, 3-1, but he's a little bit on the shorter side. And again, a player who, you know, with the Flames, once he's done at Wisconsin, he's a guy who I'd definitely be keeping an eye on because if he turns pro, you know, there's a lot of stuff to like about the potential to add him into their pipeline. So I think he's a player who will attract a lot of NHL interest and a guy who has had a remarkable run of things with the Hitmen here of late.
Yeah, and you never want to get down on a goaltender just because they weren't drafted, because I think the path is just not linear for that position.
100%.
You never truly know what a guy is going to be until he's gotten some pro reps, till you see what they're like in their mid-20s, because that's not – Dustin Wolf is such an aberration in what you expect to see from a young goaltender.
100%. And I think with the Flames, they have drafted a lot of Russian goaltenders who have had sort of varied trajectories so far. I think Arseny Sergayev with Penn State is a guy who they will sign. Excuse me. But when it comes to it, I think there will be a need in their system for goaltenders going forward. And I think Hauser is a guy who can maybe add to their contingent.
All right, let's take a look at what we have going with Bet365. The game's on tap for tomorrow. Oh, dear. Oh, man, I'm getting old. That's so far away.
I can read it. I got it. We got Ottawa and Washington, a battle of the two capitals. Buffalo and Montreal, that's a game that will be very interesting if you are on Team Tank because they will want Montreal to win. And that's actually a rematch of a game that just happened in Buffalo, where the Canadians won their 4th straight. So the Canadians have been quite hot. The Islanders and Rangers, I mean, the Flames would be happy with either of those teams winning that game. Flames fans, if they want a top 10 pick. Tampa, Florida, battle of 2 teams that the Flames just played. Sharks and Leafs, wow. The Leafs just needed a shootout to beat the Penguins. I am very curious to see how they will fare against San Jose. And then LA and Chicago.
Over on that one for goals scored.
Yeah, no kidding. 6-5. And LA versus Chicago, which would have been one heck of a matchup 10 years ago, and today is one that I will not be watching. My bet would be, I think, bet on the Sens to take down the Caps. The Caps have been kind of sliding of late, and Ottawa, I think, is due for a bit of a bounce back after some iffy performances. So that would be my stick my neck out for that one.
Plus, you got Brady Tkachuk on the revenge tour.
That's right.
And talking some trash.
Talking some trash, but that's just his default mode.
What they do best. That's brought to you by Bet365, the world's largest sports betting platform. You can open an account today and bet on a huge range of markets. Our fight is going to be on there soon. Just you wait. Download the app today and use code NATION when you sign up. And whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. All right. Do you have any thoughts, questions, and concerns before we wrap this thing up? I'm surprised we made it this far. We both thought this was going to take like half an hour.
Me too. My concern is with the guy in the chat who says that Zane Parekh is only okay offensively. I would disagree. Regardless, everybody who's been pretty good in the comments tonight, thank you all for watching. Just rate, review, and subscribe. I'm stealing Cami's lines now. Do we have any questions? Let's see.
Gould, do you have a family? Please don't do it for the love of God.
You're
peacemaker in here. I don't know how it elevated. I think maybe we should blame Pinder and them because it started as one flip.
One flip. That's it.
Yeah, and now we have to set up a ring. Maybe we need to maybe I'll turn heel.
It was at the Christmas party, wasn't it? It was like
was it the Christmas party?
We'll have to rent out the Starlight Center out at
since you can be here tonight, we have to actually make this an event. I'll dress up like the Green Bastard.
I'll dress up like a door because I'm gonna be getting out of it and running away.
Jail.
That's right.
Phil Viner, any thoughts of moving Parekh to forward?
No, I not today.
Spicy. It's something you can do at junior. It's something you can do with Oliver Shillington when your team is battered. Actually, Landon DuPont did that this season. Everett was a little banged up, and they asked him if he'd be up for trying out wing, and he did a solid job.
And my apologies, Scotty. I see now that you were talking to a Marc-Andre Bergeron as somebody who was just okay offensively. My apologies. But yeah, no, I wouldn't put Zane Parekh at forward. I think he has been so prolific at the defense position at every time, every level in his career so far. It's natural for him. I think, we will see him take on some of the responsibilities of a forward. I think when he plays with the Flames, we will see him jump into the rush. We will see him probably man maybe a lower position on the power play, maybe a bumper spot, something like that. But I wouldn't mess with what ain't broken. And this is a guy who's been back-to-back OHL Defenseman of the Year for January and February now. No question in my mind. I sort of leave him where he is.
Yep. Let him cook, as the kids say.
That's right.
So you got one of our last ones here from Handsome Dan. Thanks for checking in. Cami could run Mike's show. Stop kidding. Business. I'm sorry, Mike. You're catching a lot of stories here.
It is my hallmark on this show. I laugh at everything, and I just sort of giggle. I just find everything funny because it is. We're doing a talk show about hockey. It's nothing serious here. So I just like to laugh.
Just having a good time.
Just having a good time.
Man, well, I guess we've had a great time tonight, kind of despite the result. I think we've had fun.
Sure, anytime.
Talked about some good things.
Anytime.
Yeah, Peter, again, Rocky Apollo Creed versus Drago. Drago is one of my favorite movie villains of all time. Just
make peace. Make peace. I'm here for peace. I like bringing people together. We need more peace in the world. So
maybe I'll fight Rat instead.
Fight Red. Yeah, totally. Go get him, Tiger.
Yeah, actually, that'd be a disaster. Maybe both of us. Actually, with Rhett, that would be like that question where they ask guys like, would you rather fight one 20-year-old or like 50 kindergartners?
Yeah, it's like, would you rather? Yeah, how many babies could you like kick or whatever? Isn't that the Reddit question? Would you rather face like one elephant-sized baby or 50 baby-sized elephants, something like that? Yeah, would you rather face one Rhett-sized Rhett or one Mike-sized Mike? There you go.
That seems like a great place to
end the show.
Yeah.
Quick.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Barn Burner, the gang, back tomorrow. It's going to be a big week with the NHL trade deadline coming up. Flames back at it on Tuesday against the Flyers. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Bye-bye.